Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 8 of the Startup Sessions, the number one show for starting a business that matters by doing work you love. I'm Michael Knouse, and this week I have Maggie Palmer on the show, and she'll be talking about how she hit rock bottom in her corporate career, faced all her fears, and went on to build a successful six-figure marketing and PR business. Let me ask you, do you ever wonder if there's more to life than earning a wage just to get by? Or maybe you felt forced to choose between your family and your job. Or do you feel trapped by your circumstances at a job that's going nowhere fast? If any of these scenarios sound familiar, then this episode is going to shed some light on what's possible if you're willing to dust yourself off and pursue your dreams. It's all coming to you right now on episode number 8 of the Startup Sessions. Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Startup Sessions. I'm Michael Knouse, and today I am here with a dynamo of a woman. She's a great entrepreneur, and she took a pretty crazy situation in the corporate world and turned it into a thriving business of her own. So I'm speaking with Maggie Palmer here today. She's founder of MKP Creative, a Portland-based company that offers PR and social media consulting. So welcome, Maggie.
Hey, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So today, we're going to get real with Maggie about what it takes to succeed as an entrepreneur after leaving a corporate job. She's got a unique story, and I want her to share that. But she's the real deal. She's achieving success in her own business, and so I really want her to speak to that because a lot of the listeners are serious, and they want to know, they want to somehow find out how to close that gap between either starting a business on the side while they still have a job and turning it into their full-time deal, or they may have already started something and they want to know how to, just close that gap. So I want to have Maggie talk about that. I also want to make everyone aware that Maggie is she's serving as her third term on the board of the nonprofit Women Entrepreneurs of Oregon, which empowers other local women to start running their own business and succeeding in their own business. And I'm going to link that up below. But I think that's just another testament to Maggie, you, and the fact that you're no stranger to self-employment and entrepreneurship. And so, for any of the listeners and watchers, if street cred is what you're looking for, Maggie's got that in spades. So excited to have you here, Maggie.
Thank you.
I would love for you to start out today with telling a little bit about your background and your story and how you were given the opportunity to move from the corporate world to being an entrepreneur and starting your own business.
Sure. So basically, I'm born and raised in a small town in Ohio. And when I graduated from college, Ohio University, I just jumped in the car and I drove to LA, and I didn't have a job. And I guess that was the first inkling of, entrepreneurship. I'm just going to go out there, I'm going to follow my passion, I'm going to make it work. Which ended, with me working at Grauman's Chinese Theater. So making popcorn and things like that. So there's another, have a plan, but also just do it. So I ended up working my way up, and I did become a segment producer out there. And I guess for me, that was like being self-employed because you were 1099 on all your work.
Okay.
And you kind of you would work on a show for 6 months, and then it would go on hiatus. And then you wouldn't know if it was going to get picked up again. So you'd kind of have 6 months to go find another project to work on.
Oh, wow.
So in a way, it was preparing me for being an entrepreneur. After that, I ended up getting a job, out here after a few moves and a marriage and a kid and a house. So I got a job, a nice steady job with a 401k. It was the first time I ever had one, and benefits and the whole deal. And I would get this like Sunday afternoon thing every Sunday at 3:00. It would kind of hit me, and I would get kind of like, oh, I gotta go to the office tomorrow and sit in my cube. And I love the people I worked with, but just the small talk at the coffee maker, and I just would look out the window like a kid at school, and it wasn't my window because I didn't have any windows in my cube. So I would go down the hall and look out my boss's window, and I would just think, I don't know, it just wasn't, I wasn't inspired. I
Okay.
loved getting out and doing coffee meetings and meeting people.
Yes.
So I think from there, you're talking about people who are at a job and saying, they have a passion to do something else. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of always knew I wanted to eventually do something else. But
Yeah.
what happened was I had my son in April of 2008.
Uh-huh.
And so I had my 3 months off on maternity leave. And I knew it would be hard to be a working mom. I knew it would be hard to take this little innocent baby, especially my first, and a lot of moms relate to this, and hand
Yeah.
it to a stranger, even though
Mm-hmm.
it's a stranger that you researched and
Yes.
it's a good daycare.
Yeah.
But to you, it's a stranger. And so I would leave the house at like 7 a.m.,
Mm-hmm.
get to daycare around 7:45, hand him off, be at my desk by 8, and then I would pick him up around 5:30 or 6. I would get home at 7 and put him to bed. So I was talking to you about this before, but I would never, there were days where I wouldn't actually look in his eyes. I
Wow.
just, we'd have this whole day of, and you can't talk and you can't be like, what'd you do today? And it was hard. It was like,
Yeah.
I knew I had to be a working mom, but
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't what I had in mind.
Yeah.
So I'm very, analytical, and
Mm-hmm.
I work in marketing. So I
Yeah.
went to my boss with 3 scenarios:
Okay.
option A, option B, option C. They all had to do with maybe I come in at 7, but I get to leave at 4. So I could kind of cut down that commute and then have some extra time with him.
Mm-hmm.
The other options were having Fridays off, or, kind of working out a flex schedule where I work from home, work in the office. And pretty much none of it worked for that particular boss and that particular company.
Yeah.
None of the scenarios worked except me being there 8 to 5. So I
Okay.
went back to my desk and I said, I'm just going to have to put my head down and do it. And then there were two breaking points for me. The first was we had a sales meeting that went long. So I went to get my son at daycare, and it was 6:30, and it closed at 6. And they were standing in the front parking lot holding him.
Oh my gosh.
Very much like worst
Whoa.
mom award goes to me, because
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
closed, and you get charged, when you come late.
Yeah.
But I was struggling with, as a woman who just had a baby in the workplace, I felt like it was a pretty male dominant place. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like they were looking at me like, is this going to change how she works?
Yeah.
Especially because I had just had the conversation about a more flexible schedule,
Yeah.
which as a woman in a workplace, you feel, is that showing a sign of weakness?
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone's expendable, especially, when you work in marketing, it's very competitive.
Yeah.
So that was my first, that was my second strike, I would say. The first strike was
Okay.
not being allowed to have any flex schedule.
Yeah. Okay.
Third, and my breaking point,
Yeah.
was I went to daycare one day, and the daycare lady, when I picked him up, said, he crawled today. It was his first time he crawled. And I was like, no, he only does firsts on the weekends. He doesn't, there's no first anything happening during the week. And I'm like, hold it together, don't cry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she said, well, don't worry, we got it on tape for you. And
Yeah.
she opened
Oh
up
my
a media
goodness.
center with tapes, tons of tapes with little names on them.
Uh-huh.
And she's looking through, she finds his, she pulls it out and she hands it to me. I mean, I just had a meltdown.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch my child's first crawl, steps, words, on tape.
Yeah.
And she was very confused because it was probably a lot of people appreciated that. And I did appreciate it, but it just wasn't in line with what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I went out job searching. I found a job that gave me a flex schedule.
Yeah.
This all happened from April to August.
Wow. Okay.
So I think it was September, I started a new job where they gave me the option to work from home in the morning and then come to the office in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And the company was going through a transition period. It was the end of 2008, so every company was going through a transition period.
Yeah,
It was,
exactly.
the start of, in my generation, was kind of like the depression, to us. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of my marketing friends were getting laid off. Everyone was pretty nervous. Um, but they told me it probably would be okay. But every meeting I would sit in with the board was not sounding good.
Yeah,
I mean,
the writing
it
was on
was
the wall.
a publicly traded company.
Yeah.
And so I went to Ohio for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, I checked my email right before we sat down for Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' house. And I
Yeah.
found an email that said, when you come back, you don't have a desk because we sold it on
Whoa.
eBay
Wow.
because the company's done. And
Oh
so
my
I just wanted to
gosh.
send you this note. This is from the president that said,
Yeah.
I got all your stuff out of the desk and I put it in a locker. And I just didn't want you to be alarmed when you came to the building after your holiday and your desk is gone.
Unbelievable. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, and yeah, you'll be done, January 3rd. And so that
Wow.
that was the end of my corporate life.
Okay, so wow. So you had a very strong sequence of events relatively close together that really, I guess many people kind of refer to that as maybe a wake up call.
Hmm.
And this is interesting because I talk to a lot of people that use having a family as the reason to stay in a quote unquote stable corporate job. But what you experienced was you actually were using your situation and your family as the reason, the driving reason for you to start your own company and really build, it sounds like build your structure your life around your business rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't realize that until I had a family, until I had
Hmm.
a child. For me, I've worked since I was 12. I was babysitting. When I was 16, I had two jobs. I worked at a movie theater and then I also was a lifeguard. So I've worked hard my whole
Yeah.
life. I'm very competitive with others, but mainly with myself. I
Hmm.
wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the manager. I wanted to be in charge of things. So yeah, I never knew you could be an entrepreneur. I don't have
Yeah.
any, entrepreneurs in my direct family.
Yeah.
My dad worked in the steel mills in Youngstown,
Yeah.
Ohio,
Wow.
and that's what everyone did back then. And then my
Hmm.
mom was a secretary at the company,
Hmm.
J&L Steel, and they
Okay.
met, and then she stayed home and had four kids and raised them. And
Yeah.
my older brother is a teacher. My younger sisters both have nice steady jobs.
Hmm.
So I don't even know if they totally know what I do. They're really supportive, but
Uh-huh.
I don't even know how to classify things most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary. And I guess it was the universe just saying, oh, this is what you're meant to do.
Uh-huh.
And I was totally ignoring it.
Yeah.
And so for some people, I think they need to get pushed out. They need to be
Hmm.
at the lowest point. I was laid off. I was collecting unemployment,
Hmm.
um, which for me, coming from a hardworking family in Ohio, even though I know how it works and I've worked since I was 16, I've been paying into the system. I
Hmm.
still, at my core, I felt like I was taking something,
Yeah.
even though that's what it's there for. It's there as a
Right.
safety net to
Yeah.
help you get back on your feet. So then
Yeah.
I really felt like, it's my job to use this system
Yeah.
the way it's meant to be used, which
Yeah.
is help my family get along until I can do something new. And
Hmm.
I tell you, I job searched for months. I went on interviews. And at that time, they were saying, well, you can do kind of a sales marketing thing,
Hmm.
and we'll pay you on commission.
Yeah.
And it was like $1,000 a month, which is what my daycare costs $1,000 a month.
Wow.
So I guess it was the perfect storm because it was
Yeah.
early 2009 and everybody was getting laid off. So
Hmm.
then I went to the Dragon Tree Day Spa in Northwest,
Yeah.
which is like my happy place. And I couldn't afford to get a massage that day, but I just kind of went around and smelled the tester lotion. And then I said to the owner, Brianna Borton, who was there, and my very first client, as it ended up being,
Oh
I
wow.
said, "Who does your PR and your marketing and your social media?" And she said, "Nobody. We do
Okay.
it. Our
Okay.
esthetician does it."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, let me do it, and like give me, a massage, and $500 a month.
Uh-huh.
I don't know."
Yeah, something.
And she said, "Sure." So I
So,
started doing that, and Brianna was in Women Entrepreneurs of Oregon, so she introduced me to that network,
okay.
and yeah, it just kind of took off from there.
Wow. So you really did just tap into, the I guess your creativity and leveraging the skills that you already had. And that's one thing I want to touch on too is, so many people say that or feel, I guess, scared or underqualified to start something they start a business that they care about that leverages their skills and their desires. And it seems that you really, early on just kind of experimented with that at the Dragon Tree Spa. You tapped into your skills, some of your talents and desires. And was that decision? Was it kind of like an afterthought? Like you were there and you thought, "Hey, this may be a good way to just try something," or was it more planned out than that? Like, how did you really tap into your strengths to start your company?
It wasn't planned at all. I mean, I meet with so many people who say, "Can I just pick your brain because I'm thinking of starting my own business?" And I
Yeah.
love meeting with people and helping them, but
Uh
at the
huh.
same time, I feel like if you don't just get out there and do it, then
Yeah.
I don't see how you're going to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really think, I mean, and I consider myself an introvert, which a lot of people who know me would think I'm an extrovert. A lot of
Yeah.
people say I don't want to go to networking events. I don't know what to say. I get really nervous talking to people, and you're good at that and you like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's not necessarily liking it. It's that it's part of what you have to do, especially when you work in a home office or by yourself. You really have to put
Yes.
yourself out there. And I feel like that's what I did that day at the Dragon Tree. I said, I'm sick of applying for jobs and saying, I want to work in your PR department or your marketing department, and them telling me, well, you'd be better in sales,
Mm-hmm.
or we're really looking for salespeople right now, not PR people.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating me that I just kind of thought, what do I want my title to be?
Yeah.
I wanted to say PR. That's what
Yeah.
I love. That's what I'm passionate about.
Uh huh.
And so when I approached Brianna at the Dragon Tree, um, when she said, "What do you do?" I just took a step back and said, "I'm not going to say what I typically do or what's on my resume. She's
Yeah.
asking me, what do I do? Not
Yes.
tell me your resume." So I thought, well, I do public relations. I
Mm-hmm.
do public and media relations. And then
Yeah.
the next time I talked to someone about possibly hiring me, they would say, "Well, we're really looking for a social media specialist." And I would say, "Oh, yes, well, I am a social media specialist." And,
I
"Oh,
just
do you
happen to
also
be
do
one of those.
SEO and SEM?" Well, absolutely, I do that. And,
Yeah.
at first I struggled with feeling like, I think a lot of people feel this way. Am I qualified to do this?
Yeah.
And you feel, I guess you go through this thing of feeling a little bit guilty about asking for money, or
Yeah.
when they say, "What's your hourly rate?" Or, "Do you charge by hour or project?"
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, "Let me get back to you on that. I'd love to put
Yeah.
together a proposal for you." And I
Yeah.
would go Google, social media rates. Do you charge hourly? Do you charge by project? And then I would go online and I would get into like LinkedIn forums where people are talking about what they charge per
Mm-hmm.
hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to get comfortable with talking about money and not feeling
Yeah.
guilty, not saying, "If it's okay with you, I'm going to charge you this."
Right.
Instead, saying, "My services are this."
Yeah.
And if they can't afford it, then saying, "Okay, then I can do 5 hours instead of 10." instead of cutting down your hourly rate. Because then they go tell other friends, she does an awesome job and she's cheap,
Yeah.
which is how people described me at first, you know. She's
Yes.
affordable and she's really good,
Yeah.
which is
Okay.
probably what I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with when they work in a service industry.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what I love? I love about your story is that, it came together pretty organically. I mean, yeah, you took some hits there that really sound like they were motivating reasons to do something where you had more control. And I love the fact that, you just painted a picture of you get out there and you try some things that are aligned with who you are as a person and what your skills are, and you own them and you ask to be paid for them, and then you keep doing more of that. It's not like a fancy recipe really. It's just kind of owning what you're about and who you are and what your skills are, and I call that experimenting. But that's really what you did. You got paid to experiment with some things, and now look what that's turned into. How many years have you been in business now?
I Well, I think I told you that story. I took a stack of checks to the bank in
Yeah.
February of 2009,
Uh-huh.
and I said, I think I started a business.
I
Got these
think I
checks.
started.
I think I started a business to the teller, and the teller's like, "Oh, good job!" We kind of celebrated together, and then he's like, "What's the name of your business?" I'm like, I don't know." And
Yeah.
these checks are made out to me, but I would like to have a business name. And so
Yeah.
the teller and I um, came up with the name of my business, which are my
Uh-huh.
initials, Margaret
Yeah.
Kathleen Palmer,
Uh-huh.
MKP. And I said, creative? He's like, yes. I'm like, services? He's like, perfect. So that it
Uh,
was a DBA, doing business as.
uh-huh.
And then I got a client, an author in Connecticut, who's also a family associate. And
Uh-huh.
she's an uber conservative, fiscally conservative, smarty pants in my
Mm-hmm.
books. And she has
Uh-huh.
her own business. And
Yeah.
she said, you need to be incorporated, you need to be an S Corp.
Yeah.
And so I looked it up. I called the SBA and Mercy Corps, where you can talk to advisors,
Mm-hmm.
and they all agreed that an S corporation was very good for what I wanted to do as far
Yeah.
as taxes and personal income taxes. And now, obviously, I know a ton more about all of that stuff.
Uh-huh.
But so I incorporated in March of 2009,
Okay. Okay.
and that it's a six-figure business,
Yeah.
and you have your ups and downs. But
Mm-hmm.
I talk to a lot of people who say, I haven't made any money in 3 months, or I haven't paid myself in 6 months.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I say, not to be like tough love, but kind
Yeah.
of, maybe something's not working.
Uh-huh.
Because I really felt like if I don't make any money for 3 months, then I need to try something else.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I feel
That's a
like it
sign.
doing what you're good at, but being aware of the signs, like
Yeah.
listening to the universe or the clients or people telling you, I'm not going to pay you for these things.
Right.
And so I always tell other entrepreneurs that
Mm-hmm.
it's great to have passion,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just going to run you into the ground if you're paying everybody else, but you're not making any money. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not all about money, but that's a successful business. It's being able to provide for yourself and your family,
Yeah.
doing what you love.
I think that what you just described is rampant in I'll call it the freelancer world. So people that are starting services of various kinds and not getting paid for 3 months, 6 months, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking that oh, the money's going to come, or that it's all okay, and that may be to an extent. But what do you find are some of the top reasons that you see or experience that people like typically don't, they're not making money for months at a time, entrepreneurs, because that can kill you. I mean, that can be the end of your great idea, your business, if you're operating
Yeah.
in that in that like just set of not being paid over and over again. I mean, that's a scary place to be. But what do you find are some of the reasons for that?
I think they don't value their worth. I think they
Okay.
don't think they're worth it. They're afraid to ask for, $85 an hour, $100
Okay.
an hour. Because to
Okay.
them, especially when you come from a corporate world and you
Yeah.
say, my salary was 75,000
Mm-hmm.
gross
Mm-hmm.
before taxes.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, you're going to see 40% of that go to taxes.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a check. So if you
Yeah.
say other people are charging 85 an hour, you
Yeah.
charge 35, we'll
Yeah.
subtract 40% from that $35 an hour fee.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's what happens with a lot of entrepreneurs is
Okay.
they don't look into the mechanics of gross versus net.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you charge by an hourly scale, you naturally have to go up a bit. And
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
to the advantage of the person hiring you because
Sure.
they're not paying benefits, they're not paying for insurance or for your retirement. You are. So
Right.
you really need to understand your market value.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to make a really good sales pitch.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people go in and say, so if you could pay me this much, it'd be great if that's okay. And
Okay.
then there's no response from someone, and then they say, oh, and I'll give you an hour free to start. I mean, I've had business coaches say that to me, or say, oh, we only talked for 45 minutes. Just
Mm-hmm.
don't worry about paying anything.
Oh, wow.
And I say, I'm taking out my
Whoa.
checkbook now. I'm
Yeah.
writing you a check, so tell me what to write.
Yeah.
And you can give away a little bit. I do
Right.
free 30-minute consultations.
Yep.
But then you have to feel confident in asking to be paid because you're doing a service for these people,
Mm-hmm.
especially in marketing and PR. I mean, if I pitch you and you get on a show,
Yeah.
that's a huge value to you.
Mm-hmm.
So and maybe you have to feel like you're worth it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it. And maybe you could coach me here a little bit too. Not that I'm looking for free coach. Here we are talking about money, and I'm going to ask you for some free coaching. Well,
Fine.
I still had my corporate job, and I was starting to experiment with coaching and consulting on the side. I was seeking some clients that were very specific, that looked a certain way, and I would engage with them, not a lot, but a few in a either free or discounted arrangement to really inform and build out a couple of coaching programs that I was working on with the intention. And then I turned around and I offered those programs for a good price point and still do. What's your feedback on something like that?
I did a lot of trade in the beginning,
Yeah.
which I think is great. I think people should definitely do that. I had a house cleaning client that would clean my house,
Uh-huh.
and I would do her PR in return,
Okay.
and
Okay.
it was good at first, but then I think you get to the point where one party ends up feeling like I'm doing more or I'm not getting enough,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
so after doing trade to start off,
Yes.
I started doing cash trade.
Okay.
So a massage plus $500 a month.
Okay.
I'll give you X amount of hours of PR.
All right.
And now I don't do trade at all.
Right.
And I
Okay.
did not enjoy doing it when I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like it was a way to get in the door.
Mm-hmm.
But also, so we both put something on the table.
Right.
So
Okay.
we both contributed.
Yeah,
So
I
I
love
think
that.
yeah, so a 30-minute consultation, that's a great free value.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get into the rhythm of your consultation, as
Yep.
you know, the idea with that 30 minutes is that it will lead to an hour or 2 hours. So
Yep.
you will get some kind of return off of your time.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
once you get busier, you have to look at the value of your time. And I say that all the time about me. I say, what can I pay someone to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because I make more in an hour than it would cost me to pay that person to do it.
Yeah. Got it.
So I think, eventually you get to that mindset of what is
Yeah.
my time worth.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good question to ask. Um, so, what? Maybe to switch gears a little bit here. At I'm always curious on this one. At what moment did you first realize, or if there was a moment, that you were going to succeed at your business? Was there like a defining moment or a specific client or a time period where you were like, you know what? I know this is going to work. Or did you know that from the very beginning?
Well, I went into it like this has to work
Okay.
because I can't get a job. And then once I got a taste of being an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
there's no way. There was no way I could go back.
Yeah,
I
you were.
think the biggest moment for me was I had a monetary goal. I said, if
Yes.
I make this much in 1 month, and then that's it. I know
Okay.
I'm set. And
Yeah.
I just keep raising that bar.
Yeah. And I mean, God, that's kind of the fun part. Not kind of, it is the fun part about being an entrepreneur. You and me, and any of us who have our own business, we get to make the rules, whether that's around, setting goals for revenue or creating, new and innovative products or delivering customers things that, they may, they may never have, even imagined before. Just that creative space. That's one of the things I love about it, anyways. Is like nobody's telling me you can't do this, you can't do that. Um, it's, I mean, the good side of it is it's all me, and the
Hmm.
downside of it too can be it's all me. If I don't
Yeah.
deliver, it's all on me.
Yeah, it's a heavy burden.
Yeah.
There's lots of moments as an entrepreneur where you have these kind of anxiety moments,
Mm-hmm.
little
Yeah.
panic attacks. When I lose a client, even a small client, or even a client, that you're kind of like, phew,
Yeah.
it's still, I think most entrepreneurs are competitive people with
Yes.
themselves. And
Yeah.
so when you lose a client, you look at it as almost failing
Uh-huh.
in a way, even though they'll say it's not you, it's me, it's my budget or whatever,
Yeah.
you still feel like, or if they don't give you a reason, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Even if you pretty much know it's due to their budgets or things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's d-
Um, it's,
it's it's definitely
yeah,
different. I
it's
mean,
hard.
yeah, you take things more personally when
You
you're
take things
when you
really personally because it's not the company they're leaving, it's you. And so you feel
yeah.
like, what could I have done differently? But it's all a lesson.
Yeah, and how do you deal with that? Because, especially for a lot of creative entrepreneurs that do, like I think anybody who's an entrepreneur puts their badge of approval and stamp on everything. So it's very personal. So when you do get told no, rejected, whatever you want to call it, like what's your method for dealing with that in a way that doesn't impact your business and your other clients?
Well, I try my best to not take it personally,
Mhm.
and that's hard because I take everything personally. I
Yeah.
mean, I like to be liked.
Yeah.
I've always been that way since I was a
Mhm.
kid. I want
Yeah.
people to say nice things about me and to have a good memory of me. And maybe it'll come with age. I keep saying someday when I'm, in my 80s, I'll just sit on my front porch and drink boxed wine and be like, I don't care what anybody thinks about me because I've spent so much of my life caring
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I look forward to that moment when I just don't care. But I work with a lot of older PR professionals who've been in the business for a long time,
Yeah.
and I look to them for guidance,
Uh-huh.
and they say things like, you can't please everybody. I don't even try to. I don't care. I just move on. And so even if I
Mhm.
don't feel that way inside, I try to do that. I say,
Yeah.
I can't please everyone. I'm just going to move on. But I let it sink in a little bit, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to get thicker skin,
Okay.
especially in PR. I mean, or when I
Yeah.
go to clients and I'm doing their social media and they tell me I spent $3,000 on this seminar that I went to in Houston, and this
Uh-huh.
social media specialist told me, you know, of this, and we should be doing this, and
Mhm.
why aren't we doing that? It's like deep breath, you know, don't take it personally. Nobody's a
Yeah.
social media specialist.
Yeah.
But I think as an entrepreneur, you start to develop your script. You
Mhm.
get the same things you get the people who say, my cousin writes press releases and he said your
Yeah.
title wasn't accurate, or you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get your script of, I appreciate your cousin's feedback. I will I will take that into consideration and we'll work on it together. So
Yes.
I think everybody does that as an entrepreneur.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh yeah, because you'll get it. I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, whether that's, somebody who doesn't agree with your latest blog comments or whatever, you'll get it. You'll come up against resistance. So I think it's something to be aware of. And,
Well,
you
if
know,
no one's commenting on your blog, then I think that's worse than people starting a fight over
good point.
not
Good
agreeing with
point.
it.
Yeah, there's some quote out there where, I'll completely butcher it, but if you don't stand for something, then
You'll
I don't
fall for
know.
anything.
You'll fall for anything. So, yeah, exactly. Thank you for helping me finish my
You're
own
welcome.
quote.
It's
um,
part of my script. I know all the quotes. If you just throw a bunch of quotes, you just
but
confuse
that's
people. They'll be
that's
like,
so
what?
true. Taking a stance as an entrepreneur is so important as well. Um, let me just ask you this, put you on the spot here. Like for your business, what are one or two things that differentiate you in your business? What are a couple of things that you've taken a stance on that I don't know, I don't care if it's controversial or not, but just like you put the stake in the ground, and you're like, hey, this is me, Maggie Palmer, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and there's really no deviation from that.
I guess the first thing I would say is my media relationships. So I always put my media relationship before my client relationship
Uh-huh.
because clients come and go, but the
Yep.
media pretty much stays the same.
Okay.
And I let my clients know that. So
Yeah.
if they really push me on a pitch that I know won't be accepted,
Yeah.
I won't do it
Okay.
because I just, and I'll explain that to them,
Mm-hmm.
but I really put my foot down on that. And the other thing I put my foot down on is my hourly rate.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I tell them if you can't, if you feel like that price is too high or out of your range,
Yeah.
then we can look at cutting hours. But before, I used to cut my hourly rate, and then
Okay.
they would tell people how much they were paying. And I did have a
Yeah.
situation where someone said, you told me it was this much, and this person said it was that much, and it was kind of like, well, I was giving her a deal because she
Uh-huh.
made, a big deal about it.
Yeah.
So that's something that another PR person told me is
Okay.
cut the hours, but don't cut your hourly rate. So I
Right.
think if you establish that, you know, this is the going rate in the community. This is
Mm-hmm.
where I fit into it based on my experience and my results.
Yep.
And if I want to raise that rate,
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. Don't do it
Mm-hmm.
often, but maybe annually. You
Mm-hmm.
raise it based on your performance in the past year.
Yeah.
But I don't just not getting greedy. I
Yeah.
don't I don't think that's good. I see a lot of entrepreneurs who get kind of greedy with things.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to put in those years or months of doing a couple of freebies or doing some trade. They just want to jump
Yeah.
right to, well, I should be getting paid that much if that's how much you get paid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
There's
kind
no.
of like, well, you
There's.
didn't put the time in yet.
Yeah. There's not a lot of shortcuts in being an entrepreneur. I mean, you have to go out and get your chops and, you know, build the case studies and deliver the value, and it's just part of the gig. And if you
Well, it's
love
kind of
it,
like doing a Groupon too. I mean, if you do a Groupon, you will
yeah.
attract Grouponers. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I love
I've
it.
done I do Groupons for like movie tickets, but I would
Uh-huh.
never, on principle, do a Groupon for something like a service, like a massage, a
Yeah.
mani-pedi,
Yeah.
because the person getting the short end of the stick is the person with the scissors on the other
Yeah.
end of your fingers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I never
that's
thought of it
not
that way.
fair.
Yeah.
And so what I realized was I took on a few of those Groupon type clients at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
I defined that as people who just wanted a deal
Yeah.
and and then wanted a ton of results
Yes.
and didn't really understand how it all worked. And those were the people who end up going out and saying negative things about their experience.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I have not had that happen. But that's what you risk when you take on people who want a deal.
Yeah.
Is they'll never be satisfied because that's all they want is a deal. They don't really
Yeah.
care about telling their story or doing PR, doing social media the right way.
Yeah.
They
So,
want everything for nothing.
okay. That's so good. I mean, that's such a, that may be the theme for this interview. And it was something I haven't even planned on, but it's so important. You know it. I know it for the relatively short time that I've been in business for myself, is that you really do get to choose who your customers are, and be careful about that,
Yeah.
because in most of my experiences, even in the corporate environment, the clients that are willing to pay, your full rate, and have high expectations, but also pay accordingly, always are the easiest relationships to deal with. It's just so it's just like it's clean, and it's so much less work than that client or customer that's looking for, how much can I get for how little money.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
becomes, you feel like you're defending yourself all the time.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you spend so much time meeting with them and trying to set expectations
Mm-hmm.
when really, I would say, I wish I was on the phone pitching the media right now instead of
Yes.
pitching you
Yeah.
about paying my invoice for the fifth month in a row. And so
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, I think it's just surrounding yourself with positive people,
Mm-hmm.
people who get it, people who will help you along in your
Yeah.
success, people
Yes.
who will give you a good testimonial,
Yeah.
and really feeling worthy of what you're doing. I love
Mm-hmm.
working with, and most of my clients are that way. I love working with people who write me nice testimonials or
Mm-hmm.
really tell me how I helped them.
Yeah.
That matters to me, and I think that's where the passion side of it comes in.
Yeah.
And it's really enjoyable to tell a really good brand story when you
Mm-hmm.
really that story is true.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, Maggie, I want to wrap things up with a couple of questions for you. One is that I'm kind of an adventure. I don't know if I'm an adventure junkie, but I really love different aspects of adventure. So I always ask people that come onto my show, what's your current favorite adventure activity, or something adventuresome that you've done in the past month or so?
Well, it's a little bit longer than a month ago, but I did Hood to Coast, which,
Oh, okay.
yeah, was on my bucket list. I ran
Nice.
leg 8, so I had the
Nice.
2 a.m. like up a gravel
Oh,
mountain
yes.
downhill with
I,
my scarf.
that's with your scarf and all the
Yeah,
dust
it was
from the.
called Leg 8 Eat Dust or something like that. But I love to run and I love to do, that's kind of my stress relief. But
Yeah.
Hood to Coast was on my bucket list. I worked on
Okay.
promoting the documentary when it came out a couple of years
Yeah.
ago.
Okay.
And I ended up seeing the heart to soul, Kathy, who had the heart attack
Uh-huh. Yeah.
during the race. I
Oh my
saw her
gosh. Wow.
after my second leg, and I ran
Yeah.
up and, she had all these fans around her, but I was like, hoping
Yeah.
she remembered me, and she did. And she gave me a big hug, and I was like, I'm
Wow.
running this. So
That's
it was really
fantastic.
exciting.
That's fantastic. I love it. I love it. For those of listeners and viewers that don't know, Hood to Coast is a relay that lasts, it's like 24 hours, and you run from basically the top of the highest point on Mount Hood where you can drive, down through Portland and all the way to the Oregon coast. And I've done it one time as well, and
Oh, have you?
yeah, it's awesome. I loved it. I did leg 7, so I kind of have a feel for leg 8 just because I was
Yeah,
the one before it. But that is an adventure. That is an
yeah.
adventure.
It was fun. I mean, as an
Yeah.
adult, there's just, when do you get to do stuff like that? When you're a kid, you get to play sports and team
Uh-huh.
sports and feel that camaraderie,
Yeah.
and just watching the elite runners run
Uh,
past the van,
yeah. And
because
past
I was
me.
nowhere near them. That was amazing to me, is watching, world class athletes.
Yes. It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Maggie, what's up next for you? What's new and exciting with you and your business right now that you might want to share with us?
Well, I just partnered with a guy that I've worked with for a long time, and I met
Uh-huh.
him when I worked in my corporate job, and
Okay.
his name is Scott Orth, and we started Thrive Business Marketing,
Okay.
which we focus in online only, so mainly online NPR. So we do a lot of reputation management and things like that, SEO, SEM,
Okay.
social media. And so we've been signing on some nice clients, and
Okay.
it's really fun and exciting. And then I'm
Okay.
also dabbling in augmented reality.
Okay.
So making some apps for some sports teams to kind of enhance the user experience.
Okay.
So augmented reality, you could Google it, but
Okay.
it's kind of a QR code on steroids.
Okay.
So IKEA and a lot of places in Europe are doing some really amazing stuff with augmented reality. Like you can take a
Okay.
picture of the catalog in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of your family room, and you can actually decide which couch you want, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
move it around to decide where you want to put it.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. I
it's
mean,
really fun. It's
technology
Minority Report stuff.
yeah, technology blows me away anyways. And then I start hearing about stuff like that and I'm like I don't know whether to like get more excited or like freak out because it seems too weird.
Yeah,
But that's
there's a 2D model and there's a 3D model, so
yeah.
it's really exciting. I'm working with some
Wow.
amazing programmers and developers on that.
Fantastic. Cool projects. Exciting.
Yeah.
So tell us, how can people find you, get in touch with you? I will link up all of these resources that you've mentioned below in the episode here in the show notes. But if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Maggie, about anything that you do, what's the easiest and best way to do that?
Well, I'm at mkpcreative.com. You
Okay.
can also go to maggiekpalmer.com, same
Okay.
website.
Okay.
There's a free consultation button in the top right-hand corner, so you can fill that out. Email is a great way to reach me, and my email's on the website.
All right.
And then I'm on
Cool.
LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, MKP Creative, and then on
Okay.
Twitter, Maggie K. Palmer.
Awesome. Okay, I'll make sure that all that's linked up on this episode. Maggie, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your valuable story, one that I think a lot of people can relate to. Your experience, your knowledge, your generosity for sharing everything that you've shared with us today. I think it's going to be super valuable for people out there to embrace, people that are looking to start their own business or people that already have started one and just want to figure out how to bring things together and succeed. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me share.
Absolutely. Yeah. So also, if you enjoyed this interview, be sure to subscribe to the Startup Sessions. Just put your email in the box above and get the weekly interviews delivered straight to your inbox so that you don't miss any of those episodes. And also, all of these interviews are now offered as a podcast via iTunes. So you can also download those from this site or also just look for the Startup Sessions on iTunes. Thanks for being here, and I'll see everyone on the next episode of the Startup Sessions.